The year is 401 BCE. In the royal marshes outside Susa, two hollowed-out cypress logs lie side by side under a merciless sun. A man named Mithridates, once a trusted courtier, is about to discover that death can be measured in days, not moments. What the Persian Empire did to him wasn't execution. It was Scaphism, a torture so calculated that even the insects had a role to play. This is the story history tried to bury, but the truth never drowned. If you've ever wondered how far power can go to break a human being, you're in the right place. Here on Brutal History, we dig into the archives the world buried. Greek chronicles, Byzantine ledgers, fragments of court orders preserved in ink. Every view, every like, every subscription pulls another voice out of the silence. Now let's follow Mithridates into the marsh. The boats are waiting. To understand what happened to him, you need to grasp the empire that condemned him. 23 years earlier, in 424 BCE, a young prince named Artaxerxes II Mnemon took the throne of the Achaemenid Empire. His kingdom stretched from the Indus River to the Nile and was held together by fear more than gold. Fear was the stronger glue. Artaxerxes inherited a court full of rivals, including a brother named Cyrus the Younger, who wanted the crown for himself. In 401 BCE, Cyrus rebelled and marched on Babylon with an army of 10,000 Greek mercenaries. The two forces met at Cunaxa in a clash that shook the empire. Mithridates fought for the king and claimed he struck the fatal blow against Cyrus. He boasted about it in the royal tent in front of Artaxerxes himself. The king smiled at first. Then he stopped. Within days, Mithridates was arrested, charged with treason, and sentenced to Scaphism, a punishment whispered about in the palace, but never used on someone so close to the throne. The real crime was pride. No one was allowed to share the king's glory, and Artaxerxes wanted a lesson no one would forget. The ritual began at dawn. Royal executioners, masked, silent, and precise, prepared everything in advance. Mithridates was stripped naked and force-fed a thick slurry of milk and honey until his stomach ached. The mixture was designed to cause severe illness and fill the body with waste. Then he was coated in fresh honey from head to toe, covering eyes, ears, mouth, and every fold of skin. The sweetness was not mercy, it was bait. Two hollowed-out tree trunks were brought forward and fitted together like a narrow coffin. Mithridates was placed inside, with only his head, hands, and feet exposed through cut holes. The logs were sealed shut, trapping his torso in darkness. The entire structure was carried to a shallow pond near the royal gardens, a warm, stagnant place, thick with reeds and insects already waiting. The first day brought the flies. They came in swarms, drawn to the honey, crawling over his face and into every opening. Wasps followed, stinging his lips and eyelids. He screamed until his voice gave out. By nightfall, his skin was swollen and raw. The honey fermented in the heat, and his body began to swell. Guards returned each morning. They forced more milk and honey into his mouth to keep him alive and pricked his eyes to prevent sleep. Maggots began to hatch in the wounds. His body became a living nest. Fever set in, and he begged for death. The guards only watched. By the seventh day, infection had spread from his feet upward. His tongue swelled, his eyes clouded over, and the smell grew unbearable. Yet the feeding continued. Plutarch, writing centuries later, says Mithridates lasted 17 days before the end came. When the logs were finally opened, what remained was unrecognizable. The body was left on display for days as a warning to the court. Scaphism was not just punishment, it was control. Artaxerxes wanted every noble, every general, every servant to see what happened when you crossed the king. The empire ruled through terror, and this was its most refined weapon, a death that erased not just life, but dignity. The story lived on. Greek writers like Plutarch recorded it 500 years later, calling it the most dreadful fate imaginable. Byzantine historians added details about the daily feedings and the insects that never stopped. Modern scholars debate how much is true. Some say the Greeks exaggerated Persian cruelty to make their own culture look civilized. Others point out that the method fits known Achaemenid practices, slow, public, and designed to break the spirit. No bones remain. The marshes swallowed the evidence, but the fear lingered for centuries. Scaphism became a legend, a warning carved into the memory of every empire that followed. It inspired later tortures, honey traps in medieval dungeons, insect pits under Ottoman rule. It stood as proof that power can turn the natural world into a weapon. Mithridates is gone. The boats are dust. But his name survived in ink, passed down through generations of writers who refused to let the story die. Memory outlasted the empire. The king who tried to silence one man ended up immortalizing him. The Persian Empire lasted another 70 years before crumbling under Alexander the Great in 330 BCE. But Scaphism lived on in legend. Greek soldiers who fought in Persia carried the tale home, and it spread through taverns and theaters, becoming a symbol of Eastern barbarism. Roman writers quoted Plutarch, and Byzantine monks copied the texts, preserving the horror in monastery libraries. Even in the Middle Ages, European chroniclers mentioned it as the ultimate punishment, warning against pride and rebellion. Archaeologists have searched the marshes near Susa, but found nothing. No logs, no bones, no trace of the boats. The method was designed to leave no evidence. The body dissolved, the wood rotted, the insects flew away. All that remains is the story, passed from mouth to ear, from scroll to scroll, from century to century. But memory is stubborn, and the empire that tried to break it couldn't. Mithridates became more than a victim. He became a name, a warning, a ghost in the records of history. The king who wanted to erase him gave him immortality. You've just walked through one of history's cruelest punishments. If Scaphism left you silent, subscribe to Brutal History and keep the past alive. Mithridates was meant to vanish, body broken, name forgotten. But he didn't. He lives in the pages of Plutarch, in the records of the court, in the stories we still tell today. And now he lives in you, because you listened, you remembered, and you refused to let the darkness win.